And now back to your regular programming.
If you speak better to yourself.
You showed up for probably the dumbest conversation we've ever had on this show.
Let's have that smile again.
Tell me how that happens. Physically should not happen.
Relax.
If you say
Give me as well.
3 times a day, God will line it up.
He's just an absolute hack, and he gets his ass kicked by the teammates every week. It's just terrible.
City, Joe DeLeon, Sean Anderson, 2 former college football players from the University of Rhode Island. Today, we're talking mostly draft because we are in that pocket the last few weeks until the NFL draft happens. We're going to talk a little bit of buzz surrounding Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe, maybe going in the first round. Mel Kiper just dropped his latest mock draft. We're going to react to that. And then, of course, we're going to then share what teams we think need to ace the NFL draft because they didn't do enough in free agency. Sean, before we get there, can you share a word with their friends over at MyBookie?
Yeah, MyBookie, that's where you want to be placing all of your wagers, all your sports betting, all of your Masters plays. Joe, do you want to hear I actually joined a Masters pool this year.
Oh, look at you.
I did, a personal pool, and you can head to MyBookie again for all of your Masters betting, wagering, and fun. You want to hear my 4 golfers for the URI Sports Media Masters pool.
That's the one that you joined?
Yeah, I saw Stone caught me at the right time. To actually join in.
What's the pot for?
Right now, 300. I think it's 320 with my 20 in. Scotty Scheffler, Colin Morikawa. I'm taking Phil and Louis Oberg or Aberg. Abear. Yeah, so those are my 4. Need one of those.
Is there any reasoning behind that, or are you just going with those guys?
I like the buzz.
Sprayed the board.
I like the buzz from Phil. I'm seeing videos of him. It's just literally if I see something on Twitter, I'll say, okay, there's a little. I'll qualify that as buzz. But I saw him hitting a ball off the pavement in a live tournament, and I said, you know what?
That was it. That was all you needed.
People said buzz that Phil's got something going for him, so I'm looking at it, and Scotty Scheffler's a machine, and Morikawa was hot, so that means I'm all up in it. So if you want to go and place golf wagers because there's no football and we're in the dead season, we're in the doldrums, we are wading through the slop, head to MyBookie. That's where you want to be placing all your wagers.
Oh, there's no tagline at the end of that?
What's the tagline? The last code they sent over was MM50, so you could try MM50 if you would prefer.
God, Cam,
to get a bonus code.
We need to get it together, Cam. I was supposed to. That's not on you. It's just I had no idea when the off point of that ad read was.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that. All right. We've got a lot of draft that we've got to discuss today. There's not really much NFL news, so everything for the next couple of weeks is just going to be all draft talk. One thing that was really surprising at the end of the week is this sudden momentum build for Jalen Milroe. Everybody's been freaking out and saying that Jackson Dart is the 3rd quarterback. He could go as early as the top 5, top 10. Charles Davis at one point had Jackson Dart going 3rd overall to the New York Giants in a mock draft. That's not going to happen. Now, the latest trend is Jalen Milroe to possibly be a first rounder. He was invited to the green room to attend the first round of the draft. That is significant because apparently they are not inviting as many prospects as they usually do. So this is pretty deliberate. It seems like there is some sort of a sense, unless they are cruel individuals that just want to see Jalen Milroe sit there for multiple rounds, which would be really screwed up. He apparently had great workouts with the Cleveland Browns and the New Orleans Saints. So that now makes us question, could Jalen Milroe be a first rounder? Now, as a non-draft analyst and as a hater of Jalen Milroe, what do you think of this news?
Thanks for the fair lead in there.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Don't worry.
You're welcome.
Yeah, this feels like you draft people crack me up every single year because you figure out the draft way too early. You figure it out in January, and then you flesh out all those talking points and you work through it all. It's set. I have a great idea. I've done my prep. I've watched my film. I've made my notes. And then you're left with a month since they moved the draft back to come up with new erroneous stories and let's make something out of this because the NFL draft is the next big thing going.
I'm cutting you off already. I don't agree with that. I think that the way that the draft process works.
I'm not saying you.
No, I'm not saying. No. But I think that the draft media, we evaluate and then the non-draft media are the ones who create the narratives because you've got all these reporters. I tweeted about this today. Jeff Goodman is the biggest agent glazer in the world, but all these agents push, and all these team representatives push all these things to these reporters. They send them the messages in group chats, and then they see who takes the bait and who tweets it out. They send DMs to people all the time to try and generate stories. All the erroneous stories that happen are not from the people who are sitting and doing evaluations. We're doing our due diligence. It's the slappies that don't really have as much tie-in. And there's a reason why that suddenly starts to build up after the combine is because all of those people haven't been paying attention to any of the draft stuff until the end of February. They don't get caught up until the end of February. The rest of us have been paying attention and going through the process. We're actually taking our time here. Okay, we're doing it right. Don't lump the draft people with those that are just making shit up and seeing what sticks.
That's a fair point. That the other media is catching up. So if you're doing a radio spot on Jalen Milroe, has your stance on Jalen Milroe changed since, I don't know, his pro day, since he worked out?
No,
I won't say since
the
end of the season because there are things that happen that will change your evaluation. Measurables come out, new numbers come out, all of that. So I think it's unfair to pitch this as end of season to now. Has your opinion changed? But since the last real Jalen Milroe information gathering session, have you done a different phoner since this buzz has picked up about him?
Well, I did get asked about it on the Browns spot that I do every single Monday. So I did talk about it. They brought it up. Hence, him working out with the Browns. My opinion on him hasn't changed. I have always sat on this same opinion on Jalen Milroe. The testing numbers, which he ran. We knew he was fast. We knew he was big. We knew he was strong. He threw at the combine. We knew he had a big arm, but he was really inconsistent. We already knew all of these things. He was always my third quarterback. And then I watched and finalized my grade on him before the quarterback ranking show that Ryan and I did last week. He was still the third quarterback on my board because I'm going off of the tools and the traits. Nothing has changed. I think that the NFL has a different approach to this stuff, and we're just gathering and finding out where they stand on it, and that's the whole guessing game that happens over these months.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure you weren't a sucker.
My opinion has stayed the same. It has completely stayed the same. He is QB3.
Well, my opinion has changed, actually.
Oh, so you are a sucker?
No, he's QB5. He is dropping on. It's not. I don't see it. The closer I get to thinking about NFL teams drafting a quarterback, first round, second round, for the future, taking a big swing, taking a risk, I get closer to the draft, and it feels like it's more of a possibility that someone makes a big mistake and says, we're going to leverage a lot of our future on Jalen Milroe, where if it's a third round pick, cool. That's no skin off my bones. I'm not going to criticize it. But the first round stuff, the desperation for quarterbacks, and you do need to have a young quarterback in your system, I think, at all times, constantly trying to build, develop. I'm just out. I'm out on quarterbacks after Shedeur Sanders in this draft class, and everyone else is just, they're in a pot. It feels like last year with Rattler and company that didn't get drafted until very late.
I think that Jalen Milroe is in a different pot. I never had faith that Spencer Rattler was going to do anything, and we do.
But he was the next guy after Group A.
Well, Group A was massive. There were 6 guys in Group A.
Correct.
So like the separation between the two of them, those two groups, there were so many players in the middle that the drop-off was going to be so significant because all the teams that needed a young quarterback, they got that taken care of. They got their guy. Everybody else that needed a backup level player like Rattler was good waiting. They didn't need to feel rushed. The fact that there's only really 2 draftable guys in the top 5 right now, and then it's a huge question mark, I think that does create this desperation to take Milroe higher than most people would be satisfied with doing.
But he's a Spencer Rattler backup type of guy. That's where he's at.
Not, though. No, he's not. I don't think he is. He is far more gifted than Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler was not the same level of athlete. I thought that Spencer Rattler was completely not overhyped, but he was a backup.
I thought his renaissance in South Carolina.
I wouldn't call him a renaissance.
Well, from what
he did some stuff.
He did some stuff. Milroe did some stuff. What is my memorable Jalen Milroe moment?
He won the SEC championship game. He went to the Rose Bowl. They won against Auburn on the Hail Mary.
I think Spencer Rattler would have done all of that had he gone to Alabama, and Jalen Milroe and South Carolina would have ended up just about the same as Spencer Rattler's South Carolina-led team.
I don't agree with that at all, because Milroe is a much better athlete than Rattler and could have done.
I think Rattler's a better thrower than Milroe. So if we want to have main attributes of quarterbacking, I'd say throwing is a little better than running, even though in college it's close. It's a closer gap.
I don't think that. I think that they're pretty even as passers. I think that Milroe has a more gifted arm. I think Rattler was a little bit more natural because he had to rely on his arm a lot more. He couldn't be an athlete. I think he was like a 5-second 40 guy. He wasn't very fast. I don't think that there's that much separation. I think that if you drafted Rattler, the best that you were going to get out of Rattler was a high-level backup, like a really good backup. If you draft Jalen Milroe and he hits, his potential is that of a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that he goes on to become a top 10 quarterback. There is a massive chasm and a million steps that go into him actually getting to that potential.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like when we talk about when there's these really athletic guys that have the ability to stress defenses with their legs and also have big arms, they're able to step in and play earlier because they can rely on their athleticism and make plays that way. There's a reason why Anthony Richardson was drafted where he was. There's a reason why Lamar Jackson was drafted in the back end of the first round. Jalen Hurts was drafted in the second round. Some of those guys have hit. Some of those guys are
the guy that was an unsure player at the next level, like Anthony Richardson, who was drafted so early and high up by a bad team, was put in a bad, unfortunate circumstance. Lamar Jackson was taken by a good team at pick 30.
So this is my whole thing with Jalen Milroe that I was going to get to. Jalen Milroe needs to sit for 3 years. He needs to sit for 2 years. He can't get rushed out there. He needs to get the Jordan Love, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts slow approach to getting onto the field. And if he does get that patience, then he is going to be more successful. I don't want to see him picked by the Saints. I don't want to see the Browns take him in the second round. I would like to see somebody who kind of has some sort of a current, not confident situation, but like already has a sitting veteran. There's not a lot of options there. The only one that makes the most sense is if the Steelers signed Aaron Rodgers and then drafted Jalen Milroe at 21. That is the only one that I think makes the most sense, because the rest of the teams that are picking in the back end of the top 32 is like, yeah, it's really only Pittsburgh. There's nobody else. Everybody else kind of has a path carved out.
You see, that just doesn't make a lot of sense to me, even in the second round. Like, this guy's going to be our piece of the future. This guy should be a genuine, treated like everyone likes saying that it's a not an experiment, but it's going to maybe experiment. It's going to take some steps. He is not a finished product. Well, then why are you drafting him so early? Like, would the descriptors
you think
apply?
Pick 21 is so early?
Yes. First round is so early for an unproven commodity in Jalen Milroe being an NFL quarterback.
Well, when you're a team like the Steelers that you're sitting around waiting for Aaron Rodgers to say yes, to at least take a flyer on a young gifted kid.
Take Big Ben Jr. in the 5th round, 6th round.
Who's Big Ben Jr.?
Will Howard.
Will Howard sucks. Will Howard doesn't have the arm of Big Ben, nor does he have the pocket presence of Big Ben. He is Mason Rudolph Jr. He's a big, just a big oaf with a below average arm. That's it.
Project is the word I'm looking for when describing Jalen Milroe. Project's
not an incorrect way of describing him.
But projects, I think, hurt teams if they're taken in the first round. Projects are good in the later rounds. That's where I could see some value going into it. This is a first round draft pick, Joe.
I disagree with they hurt teams that are desperate for a quarterback. Teams that don't have a sitting starter. Like Paxton Lynch, for example, when they drafted him in the back end of the first round, the Broncos did. They had Trevor Siemian. They didn't have anybody. They didn't have an answer.
Trevor Siemian.
Trevor Siemian sucked. They didn't have a future plan. So they took Paxton Lynch way too late in this process after Peyton Manning retires, and he doesn't pan out. because you're hoping he gets on the field sooner, and then you have to turn to Trevor Siemian, a guy that probably wouldn't have gone in the first round in most years, ends up getting drafted earlier than expected. I think that Milroe, at least at pick 21, is fine. And if he goes in the second round, I think that I'd like to see him go to somewhere like the Raiders that has Geno Smith. Geno Smith starts for the next 3 years. If Jalen Milroe comes along, Jalen Milroe starts in year 3. You do whatever you have to do with Geno Smith. You send him off and into the sunset and you let him retire.
Sure.
And hopefully you've got a pretty good offense that's humming by year 3. And you can have this Jalen Hurts type of a career from Jalen Milroe if you build the offense around
Jalen Hurts was still getting called bad this year before he won.
He
the
still
Super
won
Bowl.
a Super Bowl.
He will still be called bad next year because of his performance
It proves
at
if
the
you
quarterback
if you
position.
draft well with a good athlete at quarterback, you can win a Super Bowl.
That's true. And we've seen it with Jalen Hurts. I stood at it and looked at it. But Philly is still not sold on him. That is still a guy that you could – if I'm looking at this, why am I paying Jalen Hurts so much damn money if he's not that good and I could get another big, strong ox at quarterback that can do similar Jalen Hurts things, but every 5 years I get a guy that's faster than my now 29-year-old Jalen Hurts. I get a guy that's more explosive than my now 29 Josh Allen. Whoever the big ox may be, why don't we just do the quick replacement with a Jalen Milroe and not try to make it out that he's going to be some project that comes and leads us out of the blue to a whole bunch of wins, which he won't do.
Wait.
If he sat for 3 years on the Raiders and came out and followed Geno Smith, that team would have 6 wins.
Well, I think that that's a bit assumptive to just believe that he's not going to succeed at all. I think that there's still a path for career success with him, just like nobody thought that Jalen Hurts was going to be any good. He just won a damn Super Bowl.
He won a Heisman. There's some type of ingrained, you think he's going to be good if he did this. Where's Jalen Milroe's? Where's the moment that you can fall back on to defend yourself?
Wait, Hurts did win a Heisman.
Am I tripping?
He was a runner-up in the Heisman.
Who did he lose to? How am I? I swore he won a Heisman. I'm a jackass.
Yeah, you are a jackass. Was that 2019? Was that the Joe Burrow year?
Jalen Hurts did win a Heisman. He won it in 2019.
No, he didn't.
Did he not? Why is this?
2019 was Joe Burrow.
Why is it Jalen Hurts / Heisman Trophy / awards Heisman Trophy 2019?
Where do you see that?
At the top of the Google machine. At the top.
What do you mean at the top?
At the top.
He didn't win a Heisman. 2019 was the year that he finished as a runner-up, and that was the year that Joe Burrow won it.
I'm not defending it. I obviously, my second double back into he won one was obviously misinformation I was fed just now.
Though Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts played more college football than Jalen Milroe did. But my whole point is that both of those guys coming into the NFL had concerns on if they could actually be passers. Those were question marks that were brought up with them. I push back on the notion of that he can't succeed, because how many times are we going to do this? Like, how many times are we going to do this when we see a kid that has unreal highlight plays, that has shown an ability to take over games, that is a rare athlete, that has a strong arm, and we're just going to assume that he can't throw the ball because he has been in difficult circumstances? Jalen Milroe has had 3 different offensive coordinators. He has had 2 different head coaches.
Brother, he was at Alabama.
That doesn't make up for the fact that he's had 3 different... He had Tommy Rees calling plays for him. Are you kidding me?
Dude.
Tommy Rees.
Dude, he was at Alabama.
Tommy Rees was calling plays for him.
I'm not going to sit here and let you say that he had some unfortunate circumstances.
That doesn't... We don't just make decisions based on logos. Just because he was at Alabama doesn't mean that
when you say unfortunate circumstances,
3 offensive...
that doesn't apply to Alabama.
3 different offensive coordinators in a player's career. Does that not
happens
a lot?
all the time in the NFL? Happens all the time.
Would you wait?
Justin Fields has had 4 in his first 3 years.
Just because it happens all the time, does that not make it a challenge? Is that not a challenge?
Yeah, it's difficult.
You won't give this guy any credit. You won't give him any credit.
Show me where he's earned it. Show me where he's earned it. Show me. Did he beat Vanderbilt this year? Did he do that? Or did he get outdueled by Diego Pavia? Did that happen?
Sean,
did it happen, Joseph?
Sean, it did happen, but he went to you don't want to acknowledge any of the brilliant things that he's done.
Like what?
He went to a Rose Bowl. He won the SEC. He dominated against Georgia twice. Twice. He played 2 amazing games against Georgia. That's the investment that you're getting. If you invest in him, you get that version of Jalen Milroe that kicked the crap out of Georgia in both of those games. Those were some of the best games that I've watched all season long on tape. And everybody after the game thought, like, man, this is going to be a top 10 pick. And it didn't pan out. Didn't finish out the way that we all thought it was going to. It's there. This isn't Anthony Richardson. It's not.
I didn't say he was Anthony Richardson.
Well,
said he was a project. He won more than Anthony Richardson did in college.
yes. That's why I think that
He wasn't on Florida. If he played on Florida the years that Anthony Richardson did, he'd look a lot more like Anthony Richardson. A couple spectacular plays and a lot more mess surrounding it.
I'm not sitting here projecting that Jalen Milroe goes on to be an MVP. That's not what I'm trying to suggest here. But I feel like it's unfair to frame this as if he's not going. You're making it seem like that there's no shot that he succeeds. That's what I can't get behind.
It's like a 10% chance, maybe lower than that. Of what? What do you want to dictate succeeding as? Winning season? Pro Bowl?
Multi-year starting quarterback. How hard it is if he's probably not going to be a first-round pick.
But multi-year starting quarterback?
Yeah. If he goes in the second round, he's a multi-year starting quarterback. I think that is a successful career.
Yeah, I think there's like a 10 to 20% chance that happens.
Agree to disagree.
I think maybe there. I'd say this. Well, no, I'll walk that back. I was going to say he might start more than McCarthy, but the Vikings folded on that one. Yeah, maybe he plays 2 seasons, 2 full seasons. I'll put him at that 32. Probably, I think he starts under 32 games in the NFL.
Yeah, I disagree with that.
Someone being realistic about it.
It's not whatever. All right, let's move on to Mel Kiper's mock draft that he dropped today. I don't know if this is going to be his last one or not. But everybody always freaks out when he drops one. A lot of interesting picks that come into play here for Kiper's mock. I'm hoping that this screen grab that somebody posted is accurate because some of these picks are kind of nuts. He has Jackson Dart going pick 26 to the Los Angeles Rams. He has Gray Zabel going pick 22 to the LA Chargers. He has Tyler Warren going 10th overall to the Chicago Bears. Ashton Genty going 6th overall to the Las Vegas Raiders. 3rd overall is Abdul Carter to the Giants. And then Travis Hunter, 2nd overall to the Cleveland Browns. Also in the mix there, Shedeur Sanders was 9th overall to the New Orleans Saints. Any of these picks, Marion Hampton picked 12 to the Cowboys is also pretty nuts. Any of these picks that stand out to you, they're like, what the hell?
Congrats to the New York Giants. Added bolstering that defensive line. I don't know what that does for you, genuinely. Unless you're going to not re-up Kayvon and just say, all right, we missed on him because right now it's looking like a miss on him. Good luck. I guess Abdul Carter is that guy that you slot in, and you have your quarterbacks of the future right now with Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson. So you guys are shaping up to be really solid. Jalen Walker at 8. Here's the thing. I keep on seeing Jalen Walker film. It's just a lot of him sprinting at the quarterback outside of the pocket from a linebacker position, which is a phenomenal trait if you're fast enough to beat a quarterback to the edge like that. But that's not pass rush moves. That's not an edge rusher.
I'm very low on Jalen Walker for this reason.
I love that if this came true and Atlanta got Mike Green. I love Mike Green because what I've seen from Mike Green is pass rush set. He's got a bag. He's got moves. Jalen Walker is just a really fast linebacker that's really good at linebacker, but he's not an edge guy that's going to change like the future of your defense. He doesn't feel like that to me. So that's confusing.
Let's talk about those first two. One, I really don't like this for the Giants taking Abdul Carter at 3. The more that I've thought about this, you're probably not going to move Kayvon Thibodeau at the current moment. I think that you have other needs. It feels like what the Jets did for a long time where they just kept taking defensive linemen. It felt like every single year until some guys would leave and then some guys would stick around. I don't think that the Giants need to do that. I would much rather, if you're sitting there at 3, that you do take Shedeur Sanders. And I also find it very hard to believe that the Giants wouldn't take Shedeur Sanders knowing the desperation of the front office. I'm with you on Jalen Walker. This has been a very commonly projected pick for the Panthers. Walker, I don't have faith is going to be correctly deployed by a defense. I think he could be a really good pass rusher, but he's not fully baked at the current moment. You just talked about like most of his film that everyone geeks out over is he just chases down quarterbacks and he blitzes. Like that's what they did with him. They blitzed him. He just juked offensive linemen. He didn't use his hands. He didn't do any of that shit.
Yeah.
And he tried to outrun people. And that was his whole plan. He needs to actually learn how to use his hands, or he needs to learn how to develop the instincts as an off-ball linebacker. There is going to be some dummy that is going to try and use him as some sort of weird overhang or something along those lines that is going to overthink him, kind of like what we see with Harold Perkins at LSU, where he's constantly overthought. And he is going to have a very uninspiring career. It's just like how Hassan Reddick has not – Hassan Reddick has had a great career, but when he was drafted by the Cardinals at the very beginning of his career, he stunk because they tried to use him in a position that he was not meant to play. What other picks here stand out to you?
I think it's a sin on this board to see James Pierce Jr. going to the Eagles. Like I actually am like, am I getting trolled? Am I looking at this in real time thinking that other teams couldn't use him before he fell to Philadelphia? That can't happen. As a league, someone needs to actually nut up and say, we can't let Philly get another instrumental defensive piece that's excellent on the defensive line, unless you want to see them win another Super Bowl. I think the Bengals, that's a pick that I like. Jihad Campbell, I think he's a very good linebacker. Place him right in the middle of that defense. Let him hit running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and be a force. That solves an issue for them immediately. I think that's a fine pick. Dallas, botch job, honestly. Looking at Omari and Hampton. I like Omari and Hampton.
Well, let's go. Let's not like keep.
I'm all over the place.
Yeah. Let's go one at a time here. So,
I'm doing this draft recap stuff.
At least you're honest. James Pierce Jr., you're right. Like that one feels like just gross to see because it would be the typical Eagles pick, just kind of hanging out there at pick 32. Oh, hey, look at this. You get
Why not?
An insanely gifted pass rusher that has work ethic concerns, but I'd bet he'd be pretty motivated if they were in the playoffs and competing for a Super Bowl again. That one would be one in like 2 years. We'd be talking about how James Pierce Jr. is a complete menace and is one of the better pass rushers in the NFL. Campbell, I do like with the Bengals. The Bengals just need athletes. Like they are so underwhelming in so many areas on so many spots of their defense. Let's get to Omari and Hampton, though, who you just started talking about. Yeah, pick 12 is bonkers to take Omari and Hampton. I would take him like pick 25 or later. If he ends up going even as early to 22 to the Chargers, I have them going to the Chargers in a mock draft that I'm dropping on Thursday. But pick 12 feels like a Jerry Jones pick to completely reach on Omari and Hampton, who's a good player. He feels not top 12 running back type of a player in the year 2025 in this economy.
He reminds me exactly. He reminds me of Felix Jones. You're putting the number 12 pick on Felix Jones.
He's better than Felix Jones.
Felix Jones is pretty good, man.
Okay, well,
they both run in that same vertical upright fashion, toting that. I'm telling you, a little bit. They're very reminiscent here. I think Jerry Jones sees players that he used to like and wants to get those guys back on the team, which honestly is not bad if you've been around the game. But it starts getting bad if you start reaching at pick 12. Mistake. Yeah, Shedeur to the Saints. I'd like to discuss that for a moment. I guess. I guess I've seen this start to circulate that the Saints would, A, be a great spot for Shedeur Sanders. One, why? And two, that he would fall to 9 and that the Browns would pass on him and the Giants would pass on him and that the Raiders would pass on him. All of those are whys in when I'm looking at this. He doesn't fall to the Saints on draft night. He just doesn't.
I often trust Kiper's opinion, and I think that Kiper obviously has information that he's getting that's leading to this. There's two parts to this. If Shedeur Sanders fell that far, I absolutely think that the Saints would take him. I think that they do need a little bit of a reset. And then I know they just extended Derek Carr. I believe they extended Derek Carr. That's not going to stop you from building a future. Derek Carr is not the answer for the next 5 years. Shedeur Sanders could provide that answer. Kellen Moore is going to try and find somebody. And I think that Kellen Moore would be a nice pairing for Shedeur Sanders in the brilliance that we've seen with his play calling. I think that would be a great marriage. But what you just talked about there, yeah, there's like a million spots here that go, you're telling me all these teams that are in really sticky spots with their front offices and head coaches that they're just going to say, no, we're good. We're just going to kind of piddle away and dick around this upcoming season and hope it works out. The Browns could kind of get it, but doesn't make a ton of sense. But like, again, I can rationalize why they say, let's wait until we build a better situation and we're done with Deshaun Watson before we throw a quarterback in. Giants, doubt they sit there and they don't take him unless they trade back and somebody trades up. The Jets, it sounds like there might be some investment to Justin Fields, but at the same time, find that hard to believe that they wouldn't go, well, why don't we build around Shador and let him sit and let Justin Fields start this season? And I also would I find it very hard to believe that somebody wouldn't call the Patriots, call the Jaguars, call the Jets, call the Panthers, any of these teams. I also forgot to bring up the Raiders taking Shador Sanders. That also makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
For him to fall all the way to 9, I'm not bought in on. I don't see it happening. I know that he is not your typical top 2, top 5 quarterback prospect because he doesn't have the huge arm and he doesn't have the big frame and he doesn't have the crazy athleticism. He doesn't have any of those things, but the accuracy and the poise are something that a lot of these teams need to improve the floor of their awful, unsuccessful teams.
The Saints are just awful, though. And this isn't even me doing like anti-Saints shtick right now. I'm not even putting on my Falcons hat to really dig at them. They don't have much. They've got 3 offensive linemen. Chris Olave, who's solid. Rashid Shaheed is pretty good. He could take the top off, but Kamara is getting old. The defense is old as dust. And Kellen Moore, first-year head coach, kind of waiting for that. I remember the initial Kellen Moore hype. I remember how he was supposed to be this next big brainchild in the NFL that was going to rethink offenses and get everyone on the same page and really elevate. Okay, ready to see it here. I don't think it's going to happen in New Orleans this year. It wouldn't be a wasted pick. It'd be a fine pick, and you could rationalize it. But Shador Sanders is wasted more in New Orleans than he is in Vegas, I'd say.
All right, let's move on to our next segment. We're pretty far removed from free agency, and now we're in this final phase until the NFL draft. And I think that there's teams that desperately need to ace the NFL draft in order to have successful 2025 seasons. And we've seen this happen before. We've seen teams draft really well, and you've had impacts from rookies, and your whole core of young guys end up being a driving force for your team, reaching the playoffs and competing in the playoffs, surrounded by your veterans. Let's each give one team that we think have to ace the NFL draft this upcoming cycle. Who is your team that you think must succeed?
The San Francisco 49ers must succeed. They must nail this draft to put themselves in a legitimate negotiation standpoint with Brock Purdy. If you develop a new great core this year, maybe you're a little more comfortable not lowballing the guy, but giving him a realistic offer, and he doesn't have that savior gene anymore. Additionally, the Rams are getting way better. The Cardinals are lurking, but still bad, and Seattle is lurking, but still bad. The 49ers, underwhelming last year. You're getting much older. Kittle is old. You don't have Debo. Ayuk's coming off of an injury. Don't know the status of McCaffrey. He's probably cooked, though. Not being mean, but he genuinely is cooked. You're pretty much cooked if you have issues with your lower body they are going to specialists in Germany for, in both calves. That's tough. Rooting for him, but that's tough. You also have a quarterback with a lot of questions, a lot of bright spots, but a lot of questions. So the one way you save your season this year and keep yourself competitive is drafting your ass off, is getting guys that come in and make plays. I always feel like San Francisco does a good job of this also. They make some good draft picks that impact day one. And it's a defensive back that you haven't heard of that's emerging, has got 4 picks by week 6, a good defensive lineman. They need something to keep them treading water and maybe getting past treading and actually swimming to leverage some type of conversation in the next offseason, because I think they have a quiet year, but you can actually build off of this draft now if you are in a big-time decision-making offseason in 2026.
I think the 49ers are a great pick because of the Brock Purdy situation. They're going to pay him. There's no backtracking here and trying to rationalize like why they shouldn't pay him. Like we've already talked about this before. But if you're going to commit that much money to a guy that is not a roster elevator, he needs to have a really strong core around him. They need to improve the offensive line. They need to improve the interior of their defensive line. They maybe even need to add to the running back room, their receiver room. There's so many things that need to be addressed. And historically, they've drafted pretty well. They've gotten value out of mid-round picks. They need to do that again this year. Otherwise, if they're at the risk of missing the playoffs again. They're absolutely at the risk of not making it to the playoffs this upcoming year, knowing some of the up-and-coming forces in the NFC. There are some teams that are getting younger and better, like the Commanders we've seen. The Eagles are now showing a new level of dominance. The Lions and the Vikings are showing that they can be consistently successful.
Bears are going to be better.
Bears are going to be better. The Packers are always a question mark and are certainly in the mix. The Cowboys, do they bounce back?
No, but
They're,
I see where you're going. The Buccaneers are
right.
It's getting tighter in the NFC.
There's a lot of rosters that have a lot more proven commodities, and I would argue bigger playmakers, especially at quarterback, and better and deeper defenses that are going to be a week-by-week challenge. You can't just win with coaching. You got to have athletic, toolsy guys, and you can't just bank on the current core of players that you have. I would argue that they should trade back in the first round, try and just keep picking up picks, and trying to accumulate as many guys that can contribute as starters as possible.
If Purdy isn't a roster elevator, would you consider him a roster escalator? A little slower.
All right, my team that I think that needs to ace the draft is the Cincinnati Bengals for a completely different reason. They have a superstar in Joe Burrow. They have Joe Burrow, who we know plays at an MVP level. But the reason why he wasn't able to win the MVP this last year is because their defense stunk. It was awful. I looked at their depth chart.
It's rough.
They could use a starter at every single defensive position in the first round. And they need to, in their first 3 picks, completely rework their defense. They just brought in Al Golden, who's a good defensive coordinator, who was previously a part of the staff, who knows Zach Taylor and has been around him when he was the linebackers coach. But they have to spend all of their first 4 or 5 picks on just defensive starters, corners, safeties, linebackers, defensive tackles, edge rushers. Otherwise, they're screwed. They're just going to go right back to what they did last year, where they are having to score 100 points to keep up with everybody that they're squaring off with. The Bengals for sure are at risk of not making the playoffs if their defense is as weak as it was last season, and Zach Taylor could very well lose his job.
Yeah, they're in dire need. We have not hidden our feelings on this show about Cincinnati and their woes last season. And you're right. You can't go through this type of year again. Losing to Washington 38-33, putting up a big 33 points. Losing to Baltimore 41-38. That was a crazy game, but you gave up 41 points. Gave up 37 to Philly. Lost to Baltimore again, 35-34. Putting up big numbers on offense. Defense can't keep the pace. Pittsburgh put 44 on them. The Chargers put 44 on them. In those matchups, Bengals had 38-27. You can't keep this is madness. It is the definition of insanity to keep doing the same thing, expecting different results. Having a better defense changes those results. Keeps a touchdown off the board. Bengals, we're talking about the Bengals in a completely different light. Like, what do I know? Maybe Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow are just better than any of my knowledge, but they're not because they don't have any help.
Guys in the chat, Dan and Gavin, who longtime listeners are Seahawks fans, they're saying that they think that the Seahawks need to nail this draft. And I think that's a nice one to add in here to round out the segment because they just invested money into Sam Darnold. They just traded away DK Metcalf. You've got Jackson Smith and Jigba. You've got 2 quality running backs. You've got Charles Cross. But there is a lot left to be desired from the offensive line. There's a lot left to be desired from the defense at multiple positions on their defensive line. There is a world where Seattle competes for the playoffs this year, goes to the playoffs, maybe even wins a playoff game, but they have to have a really strong draft class. They can't do the Byron Murphy shit again where they draft him and he's wearing tight-ass pants and then just kind of goes on to have an okay season.
There's also a world where Seattle ends up 4th in that division behind San Francisco, who might reemerge, and the Cardinals, who, if they get another wide receiver, could outscore Seattle. So it is a big draft for them.
Could we talk about that for a second, by the way? How crazy is it that Byron Murphy, you can't be wearing pants that tight and then just on draft night and then go on to have a really mediocre, if you got to be a dude, man, if you're going to get drafted in the top 20 picks and then just wear tight ass pants.
It's tough. I don't know.
See what his stats were.
It's tough to comment on because I don't know what I would be doing if I ever got drafted to the NFL on live TV. I just don't.
You wouldn't be wearing tight ass pants like that.
Tack McKinley brought up a big portrait of his grandmother and gave an impassioned speech.
That was cool.
Before
having, he had a half a sack and 12 tackles. I didn't realize he was this shit.
Was he hurt this past season? I thought he might have gone down in week 8. unless he played every single game. But yeah, if I was on draft night, I'd probably try to steeze my hardest. I've got a ton of people looking at me the entire time.
It is 2025. You can't be wearing tight pants. I don't think you would either. I think that I've got enough faith in you that you wouldn't be wearing tight pants.
No, I
either.
would. I know myself. I'd get
You
tight
would-
pants.
you would wear
I'd get
ti-
a tight suit.
He had one quarterback hit and 2 tackles for loss. Oh, I didn't realize he was this mediocre. He played in 14 games. He started in 9. So he might have been a little this is my whole point with him. I wasn't keeping close attention to his rookie season because he quite literally did nothing. He couldn't have been off the radar more.
Yeah,
Again, wearing crazy tight pants, bro. You can't. It's 2025. The tight pants thing is out. It is not a fashion statement.
It's not going to go out. You're
Baggy
still going to
pants,
have
man.
guys. You're not going to have guys going in freaking White Lotus linen suits, glad handing Roger Goodell. Thanks for drafting me, big man. Excited to get my check from you. It's not going to happen. You're still going to get to see the embroidered suits. It's going to be the loafers. It's a clean, dude. It's a timeless look. A good suit, no socks, loafers. Unfortunately, not even unfortunately, but they nailed it. They nailed it 10 years ago, and now it's still holding up. You're not going to move away from it. You can see the vest suits. You can do the cross button stuff, but you're not getting away from that look. Unfortunately, we're not going back to classic 03 suits, which I love.
Yeah.
I like more
We
than
need
the
more of
tight
those.
suits,
We need those back.
than the heavily tailored suits, but we're not moving back.
If he was a corner, I think it would be okay, but you can't be a D tackle wearing really tight, ripped jeans. You just can't do it. Speaking of being, a little down bad, let's get to down bad dudes. You put this in here, and I'm gonna let you explain this segment.
Yeah, I've been obsessed with this. I guess my algorithm's giving me a lot of bald and receding hairline news.
All right, eat shit.
I said my algorithm. I'm not sure why.
What's the story?
So these people in England, in this town, the town of, I don't know, it's just north of London, Flamstead, Hertfordshire, just north of.
That's made up.
It sounds exactly made up. But there has been a hawk in this town that has, quote, wreaked havoc on roughly 50 people, especially the bald. A described as hormonal hawk has been terrorizing bald men, dive bombing their vulnerable noggins, end quote, for weeks. And it was finally captured. I implore you to open up this story. It's sinking talons into bald dudes' heads like they don't have it bad enough. Like, these guys aren't walking around, I don't have my pristine hair, my head looks like a big egg or some big prey, and this hawk, massive thing, is coming down, shredding me apart, sending me to the ER.
I think that the hawk's just a dickhead. I think that that's what this is. There's a couple of quotes in here that are really funny. Some woman said, "God forbid it happens to a child." I don't think that it's worried about children. I think that it is mostly worried about bald men. It also pointed out that one of the guys had to wear a bike helmet going on a jog, which is also insane.
That is so down bad. You can't be terrorized by a bird anymore. It's 2025. Sack up, get a BB gun.
I think that that would be my first step. I would get a BB gun, or I would go jogging with some sort of a mace, like like the old medieval maces.
You
like
get some hawks. That
stick
mace.
with
I thought you were gonna get hawk
no,
spray.
no, like a medieval mace, like the stick with the spiked ball on the end of it. So you're going for your jog, and he comes down and go wham over the head. Just blast his ass, and then you got a nice little dinner. You got a nice little hawk dinner.
Now, there were hawks in Virginia that I was aware of and would see them flying. I'd say, oh, look, a hawk. If hawks started dive bombing on me, I'm putting the dukes up. I don't think
your hands would do anything. That's why you got to get. We got to get you a medieval mace.
If you punch the hawk in the chest, that you would beat the hawk. That hawk is not flying up. If it was flying at you and you gave a good punch right to his chest, it's done for.
Well, I don't think you're noticing. The hawk. I think it's like so quick that it just blasts you in the head. So are you going to be able to react quick enough to throw up a punch that's going to actually debilitate it?
Well, I'm not on double blood thinners, so I don't think I would be bleeding profusely if a hawk did latch onto me. This is a huge issue, though. Nobody in that town has a slingshot. Nobody has, a hat that they could put on. You're just walking around bald, waiting to be attacked by this bird.
That's a good point. Why the bike helmet, I think, is an overreaction. Why aren't you just wearing a hat?
What a nightmare. Wear a big hat. You're in England. There's tons of big goofy hats over there. Put one on.
A nice big cowboy hat.
I'll now that I've seen this though, I'll keep my eyes on the skies walking around with
all right, okay. I'm not bald, brother.
I know you're not, but I'm just
relaxed there.
If this is a trend of aviatory predators going after the thin-haired, I will look out.
I was going after bald people, and I'm not thin-haired.
I'm not saying you're bald, and I'm not necessarily saying you're thin-haired.
All right, I'm moving up.
I'm just trying to let you know that I got your back.
We're moving off topic before you piss me off.
Now I'm getting yelled at.
201-834-4308. Call into the hack bag. We need voicemails. Do we have one?
You always lead into this. Just let's get into the hack bag.
All right, get into the hack bag. What do you mean?
The mail never stops.
This is the Hack Bag. Hit us on Twitter for questions or call at 201-834-4308.
Am I not supposed to lead in and ask the question if we've got a voicemail or not?
Yeah, we got a voicemail today. Yeah, we got one.
All right,
yeah.
All right, what we got?
See, that's how it would work. Hey, all right, it's the hack bag. What do we start with? Voicemails or tweets today? Hey, we got one. Hey,
let me do it how I do it. But play the voicemail. All right.
Hey, Hacks, it's Danny, longtime whatever time. I'm just calling in. I read Sean's Substack article on the Minecraft movie, and I recommend anybody listening to this to also do the same. Very informative.
Thank you.
Very, very interesting.
Don't read it.
But I need you guys to recast this movie. I need at least 3 actors. Steve, of course, and then maybe another leading man, the Jason Momoa type. Recast that, and then I don't know. You guys can pick the third, whatever character you want, but maybe one of those like The Rock. I am
sure it was like 3 minutes.
Maybe a pig or a creeper or something like that. Just somebody who's going to voice act. I don't know. Have fun with it, but I'm deeply curious. Just can't reuse any of the same existing ones. The Avengers. Steve Buscemi, or are we throwing in a oh man, who's that person who played yeah, no, actually just Steve Buscemi is actually my new Steve.
No.
I'm gonna run with that. You guys pick the rest. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, I didn't like Jack Black playing Steve. I don't know enough about Minecraft to actually speak. I did play it when I was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I did like Minecraft.
Were you in a server and all that?
No, I wasn't that embedded. I played with my friends when I was growing up. It's a fun game. The movie apparently is awful, which is why I really want to go see it. It sounds like you can't go without there being hordes of children freaking out and yelling and screaming at the screen, which sounds awesome. It just sounds like an amazing experience. I would love to be a part of that. The casting, Buscemi, I don't know if I'd go with. I think Steve should have been, Momoa should have been Steve. They should have gone with the big brolic guy being Steve, the main character, not Jack Black, who's a sad, fat old guy now and who's kind of uninteresting.
Why are you trashing Jack Black here?
I just thought that it was so corny.
The whole right thing is alley. He's like a multi Nickelodeon Kids Choice Award winner when it actually when that award meant something. When Getting Slime meant something before the corporate fat cats got involved. It's when the Nickelodeon Kids Choice Awards had honor.
Okay.
I'd put Martin Starr in this movie. You might know him as Guilfoyle from Silicon Valley. He's got a good voice. He feels like a video game character when he acts. I think he's a good actor also. I'm leaning towards actors that have familiarity with video games and that kind of realm of society. Henry Cavill is my lead.
Taking this too serious. Oh, Henry Cavill would have been that's a good. I want somebody who's
that's my lead.
Giga Chad. Yeah.
Giga Chad builds PCs, games, likes Warhammer. I don't know much of anything about Warhammer 40K, but I know people love that shit. And Henry Cavill is I don't know, the incel dream,
right?
Where you're doing all this dorky stuff, but you're also Henry Cavill jacked. Doing whatever you want in this world, basically, except getting another TV option.
So, will you go see this with me?
No.
Why not?
No, I have no interest. I have no interest.
But we have to say that we went and saw it. We can't watch this on TV. We got to go to the theater and
you
say that we.
You think it's a matter of watching it in the watching the movie in the theater versus on TV?
I have no aspiration to actually enjoy the movie. I have simply an aspiration to know what the experience is like. That's all I'm asking for.
I've seen how you operate with the general public, buddy. I've seen how you.
What does that mean?
I've seen the language you use when driving. You can't.
You think I'm gonna yell at people?
You think a 16-year-old that's dumping a bunch of popcorn on you?
Wait,
from 10 rows back?
Is that what they're doing?
Are you not tracking?
I thought they're just yelling at the screen.
No, they are tearing movie theaters apart, Joe. They're like in mini riots. People have gotten arrested at the Minecraft movie.
I went to the Minions movie when people were geeking out in the movie theater.
Just,
and that was worth going to.
I can't sit in this chair when you say things like that to me.
I went to the Minion movie, the one that a couple of years ago that everybody was. I remember I went. It was so crowded. This was like 3 weeks removed from it was
the peak.
Yeah, it was packed to the brim. And one of my friends, we there wasn't enough room for us to sit together. And Kuvin was upset that we had to cast him off to go sit all the way in the back with a group of random teenagers. He was kind of pissed at us.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I went and saw the Minions movie. That was worth going to. Why can't you be a part of the process here?
I am a part of the process. I detailed this process today. Put 1,500 words down on this process.
It is only an hour and 40 minutes.
It's 100 minutes.
I think that we can make it through 100 minutes.
Hey, you look at a chicken jockey video right now on Twitter. You go check one. Just type in chicken
jockey.
No,
I want to go in blind to this.
No, you don't.
I want to go in blind.
Joe, they're throwing up in the theaters. They don't play them. They're stopping the movie halfway through.
To be able to you want to have to say 30 years from now that you missed out on this?
Yes, because I missed out on the original Minecraft. I played Minecraft iPhone version for about 2 weeks. I said, that's it. That's enough for me. I'm good.
It required too much creativity.
I was using the open. I'm like, where? I'm not getting attacked. They didn't have like online mode, so I was just in the creative world.
I think we need to go see it. What would it take for you to go see it?
The Minecraft movie?
Yeah.
The rainiest, ugliest, most open Saturday possible. It would have to be, I have literally nothing on the docket. Because it would be better than
we're not going to go this weekend. So the following weekend, one would assume that it's going to be a little bit more tamped down. Like there's going to be a lot less craziness in the theater. Would that make you feel better?
The only thing drawing to me to this is the circus that takes place inside.
Yeah, that's what we want to do.
So I don't want to see it tamped down.
Let's go tonight.
I'm not going to the Minecraft movie tonight. What? This isn't.
Dan brings up a good point. Live viewers have doubled since we started arguing about the. Dan, I'm not pirating it. I don't give enough of a shit to watch it at home.
I'm over pirating also. If I want to watch a movie, I'll pay the $4 on Amazon to watch the movie. I'm just over it. What is that? Yeah, sure.
No, I agree with you. That's me agreeing with you. That's not. No.
You were trying to sink my battleship.
No, that wasn't like a testy. No, I wasn't calling you broke. That wasn't what I was trying to do there.
Pirating the mind.
That'd be a new low.
I don't find it to be insidious, but I think that the rioting is good for these kids who have an IP that they loved and grew up with and genuinely loved, and now they're like kind of rebellious teens and think it's a big larf. They're protesting their IP getting bastardized, and I like it.
No.
I don't like the theater attendants that have to clean up after them that are getting that's getting put on them. But all these kids that are going in there ruining the theater experience. I almost support their
but that's not what they're doing.
Going up against it.
That's not what they're doing. None of them are creative enough or smart enough to think of it with that sense. Knowing what
it's all subliminal.
As one of those dumbass teenagers that would have done something like this, they're doing it because they think it's funny. That's the only reason why they're doing it. They think it's funny to go do it with their buddies. That's it. It's as simple as that.
But they wouldn't do it if they made a good Minecraft movie. That's
no, they still probably would.
I don't think they would. I think they would sit down and say, "Wow, that was great." Hey, also, Dan. This isn't the point. The point isn't watching it, the movie. It's probably on Peacock or some shit like that in a month. I'm not watching this film.
No.
I'm not going to.
Calling it a film is also generous.
I know.
It's a piece of shit.
I'm not watching this piece of shit in the theater or other. You think I'm taking 100 minutes out of my life to pull this up on my MacBook if I needed to?
Wait, hold on.
I'd be able to find it when it released.
Hold on a minute. We watched Dog Man. We went to Dog Man.
You brought me to Dog Man.
No, you brought us to a Chinese movie that had subtitles that was the second version, or it was the sequel to an original movie. We were sitting there.
Did it have subtitles or did it not have subtitles?
It was still the second movie in a series that we didn't know what was happening. We were 20 minutes into the movie and not a single thing that like we could have picked up. I'm like, oh, Yeah, no, now I'm starting to understand
You
what's
weren't
going
tracking.
on.
There were big monsters. There was a
That was
energy
all I was tracking.
explosion.
That was
There was a
someone got
resuscitated prince.
Someone got resurrected and then stole someone's energy. I had no idea
You
what
stole,
was
you
going
stole the
on.
council's energy. Pick up on a theme
What
or a narrative.
council?
The
But
council. I don't know the
I'm smart
council.
enough to infer that they took energy from a council, but what council? Why was the guy dead? Why were they suddenly showing up on the
Why-
dude's doorstep
why
and there
does
was a big monster there?
It
Like what?
doesn't- That's all
None
minutia.
of it made sense.
Sit down.
Minutia. I would argue those are important details.
You moved this over to a Captain Underpants movie.
I didn't move us over there. Chance moved us over there.
You didn't keep us in a
I
Dragon
didn't want to
Force
sit
or whatever
there.
it was called.
It was. Didn't you say it was 2.5 hours long?
It was like 2 hours. Minecraft's an hour and 40 minutes.
Dogman was like 45 minutes. It felt like.
Dogman felt like it was going on for a while. Like most
I will
Captain
not go see Snow
Underpants
White.
novels do.
There's nothing interesting about Snow White.
No,
It
Gavin,
sucks.
I'm not seeing Snow White either. I actually cannot believe that I'm still getting run down for a good movie choice that no one gave a fair shot to.
If it was the first one in the series, I'd maybe argue yes. But I just described a bunch of difficult circumstances
just
to
put
make the movie watchable.
Just say you can't read or put the fries in the bag, pal. One of the two.
I'm not watching a second version of a movie that's in Chinese, Sean. In the front row. We were sitting in the front row.
It was great.
This is what we were doing. And it was the whole.
You were
there
not
was
doing
so
that.
Much,
You were not
Yes,
doing that.
There was so much going on. We also smoked before it. Do you know how hard it was to keep track of anything that was going on?
Enjoy the movie. Read. The movie. You're reading the entire movie. You're not missing it with they were mumbling. You'll get just say you can't read fast.
That I am pro subtitles during a movie. It has nothing to do with that. Do you know? Explain to me what the plot of that movie was. Explain to me what the plot of the movie was.
It was obviously feudal China, where I think it was also based off of a fairy tale, a lore from China.
Saying a bunch of shit that doesn't mean anything.
Obviously, big emperors. Everyone's got powers. Everyone's fighting over the powers. There's a council that oversees the realm. There's a council that oversees the realm. It's every movie ever, Joe. You have protagonist,
made a bunch
antagonist. They like to cross and they like to battle. And that's what it is.
Don't use filler on me.
That's not filler.
That's not filler. That's
not the
fluff.
movie. That's what the movie would have been.
That was a bunch of fluff. You didn't know what happened in those first 15 minutes. You had no idea.
An Avengers movie.
It was closer to Lord of the Rings than
I don't know.
Avengers.
I didn't know because I didn't have any source material to confirm what happened
after
it happened because we walked out after 15 minutes.
No,
because we walked out so
source material
early
to understand what was going on.
I watched the recap. I watched a full 20-minute recap video before that. I got caught up.
Thanks for saying that to everybody, by the way. Thanks for saying that to everybody. Thanks for explaining the movie walking. You watched the 20-minute recap video and you still can't tell me what it was about?
A lot happened.
That is just fluff. What other questions do we have?
God. Still arguing about this, I'm sure.
It was a bad move by you. It's okay. Accept that it was a bad move.
You can't complain about Dogman.
I didn't mind Dogman, but my point is, if we were willing to sit, Dogman had some funny quips in it, man. I enjoyed Dogman more.
Dogman had
some
good. Dogman had a couple moments where I popped, where I genuinely laughed, which is a win for Dogman.
If you were willing to sit through Dogman, I think that we could sit through the Minecraft movie.
I was trapped into seeing Dogman.
What's the second question that we have?
All right, Jamie Williams. What would be the ideal, realistic first-round pick for each of your teams that would get you excited? What player would make you say, "What WTF are they thinking?"
Well, Cam Ward would have been the ideal pick, so that means there is no ideal pick. And then the one that would be WTF are you thinking is if they took like Shamar Stewart or they took Mason Graham, two good players that just don't make any sense for what the Giants' needs are.
Yeah, Mike Green would be one that I get excited about genuinely. My WTF would be God, who would I get even pissed off about? You know what? They
like if they took like Ted McMillan.
Yeah, but if they took Ted McMillan
or like Tyler Warren,
if they took Golden or Warren, I'd be like, we're good off this. Yeah,
that would be such a Falcons move.
Taking a wide receiver would just be foul. It'd be foul movement. Like even on the Florio one, like Colston Loveland going one pick ahead. I don't want Colston Loveland. I want Mike Green. I want defensive players. That's what I want. I don't want Jalen Walker. Also, that would upset me.
All right.
We got a couple more. Give me your thoughts on Ovi breaking the all-time.
Wait. Don't we need to say Are we saving these for Thursday?
Oh yeah, I guess we can. Yeah.
Well, how many questions do we have?
We got a couple more. We got 2 for Thursday. If we want to just put those.
Do we only have 2 more?
One more from Jamie, and then we have one from Chester, which is also 2. And then he's asking actually Masters questions, so we can save that for Thursday.
Yeah, let's save both those for Thursday because I mean that's the whole point of polling in the beginning of the week. Is to see.
That's fine.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. At Joe DeLeon, at Sanderson Radio, at Hack City Pod. Again, call in 201-834-4308 with your questions. Dan, thank you for the voicemail today. Anyone else who has thoughts, let us know what you're feeling. We'll talk to you guys later. We'll be back on Thursday.